Good evening, y'all. It's Jen. Hope you guys are having a good night. I decided to go ahead and do another video. I was trying to determine if I wanted to write a blog on this topic or do a video. But since my last topic I covered, I went ahead and wrote a blog on it that was in reference to Johnson County shelters. I decided this time I would go ahead and do a video. So, tonight's topic, we are going to talk about housing and housing programs in Johnson County. So, if you're following my page, you would have seen that I created a post probably about a couple weeks back that talked about the COC, and which is the continuum of care, and then kind of talked a little bit about coordinated entry. So in Johnson County, we do follow the coordination of care type model, which states that we do have a partnership of agencies that work together with one main agency, which is United Community Services. Sorry, I had to think about what their names was. Um, I'm used to calling them UCS, but they are the ones who kind of facilitate and oversee all the partners that work under the COC, or Continuum of Care. We call it COC. So part of UCS's job too is to oversee the by name list. So a lot of people will say, well, what is a by name list? Well, the by name list is what we in the industry refer to as kind of the housing list. Okay, so we hear a lot about housing lists, especially when it comes to different types of housing programs. So in Johnson County, there is a total. There's several different types of housing programs, but they all fall under some of the same grants. So I wanted to kind of break them down to make them a little bit easier for just someone who generally wants to know about how housing works in Johnson County, and housing programs that their clients can access. So I always say that there are four main like housing grants or housing programs. Okay, so the first one that most people are familiar with and think about the first time they think about a housing program would be Housing Choice Program, which falls under a voucher program. A lot of times we call them Housing Choice Vouchers, or a lot of times the public will refer to them as Section 8 vouchers. And so that again is one program in Johnson County. That housing program, we have two um, entities, I guess you can say, agencies, really municipalities, but that kind of cover the two housing choice programs in Johnson County. So they include Johnson County as a whole has oversees housing choice program, and then the city of Olathe also oversees a housing choice program. Now, the reason why we have two is ultimately the city of Olathe wanted to run and operate their own program. So they have a program separate from Johnson County's. So that is two separate lists that you can apply on. And you can, it doesn't matter, you can actually apply on either one of them. But they do have some of the same priorities as what will prioritize you to get to the top of the list quicker, per se. Um, and so the difference is between the two programs, I'll kind of go over the differences and the similarities, okay? So ultimately, with all housing choice um, programs or vouchers, what it means is that you have a choice in your housing. So once you are approved and assigned a voucher, then you have the choice of where you can live with that voucher. The only thing that is limiting is if it's a city of Olathe voucher or if it's a Johnson County voucher. And of course, it's limited based upon which landlords accept it. But again, those are the only limiting factors. So if you find two, like say that you're assigned a City of Olathe housing choice voucher, and you find two places in Olathe that have an opening that meet your voucher, and like I said, that accept it, then it's your choice. So that's where that choice comes in. Like, Olathe Housing Authority is not going to come in and say, no, you have to pick one over the other. You get a choice. Like I said, the only difference is as long, or or limitations, I should say, not difference, but limitations is that it has to be a landlord in the city of Olathe if it's a city of Olathe voucher, and it has to be a landlord that accepts, housing choice vouchers or Section 8. So, and the same thing works for Johnson County, works the same way, where if you have 5 properties in Johnson County that you locate and you have a Johnson County Housing Choice Voucher, then, Johnson County is not gonna tell you which one you have to choose. It's your choice, part of that housing choice, on which one you decide to move to. Okay? So, that's really the similarities of them both. The difference is, and I kind of ran into this already or kind of started explaining, is that if you get approved a City of Olathe housing choice voucher, then you will only be able to use that voucher in the City of Olathe city limits. There is things called porting vouchers and things like that. I'm not going to get into that, but just so you know that if you do have a client that um, has a reasoning, most of the time could include kids going to school in a different district that's not Olathe or things like that. But if you do run into a situation where you need to live somewhere other than the city of Olathe, then you can contact them and see if they are willing to port the voucher to another housing choice voucher program, which could include, of course, Johnson County. So again, if you get approved one for one in Olathe, most of the time you do have to use it within, a landlord in the city limits of Olathe. Now, with Johnson County, if you're approved one for Johnson County, with Johnson County Human Services or Housing Authority, whatever, however you want to state it, then you can use that voucher anywhere in Johnson County except the city of Olathe. So again, that's really the differences between the two. A lot of folks I know will get them on both lists. Unfortunately, I will say that both lists have a very significant waiting time period on them as far as getting to the top. Right now, it usually takes anywhere between 9 months to a year, if not longer, to get to the top of the either one of the list. Johnson County usually tries to at least once every 2 years open up their waiting list. Now, again, that's just opening the waiting list to be able to apply to get on it. And the city of Olathe usually tries to do at least once a year. So, for instance, in 2020, the city of Olathe had opened their list up in June. And I do believe their list was only open for like a couple weeks. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was, but it wasn't a long time frame, which theirs was open that you could get on the list. And then Johnson County opened up their waiting list. I do believe it was in October, and theirs was only open for like an 8-hour period. So, and even though it's open during that time, they really are only accepting the first 1,000 applicants to get put on the waiting list. And then after that, anyone else that applies, even if it's during that time frame that they're opened up, they'll just, unfortunately, in about a week or two, get a letter that states that, we saw that you applied, but you weren't one of the first 1,000 to get placed on the list. So that is how um, housing choice vouchers work in Johnson County. And again, there's 2 different programs, but nothing prevents you from being on 2 different lists. How it works is that if you live in the city of Olathe and you apply for one or get on the list for the city of Olathe, then you are prioritized for the city of Olathe. If you live in the city of Olathe and you sign up for the Johnson County list, you're still on that list, but you will not be prioritized, or you will not receive a priority label per se, because you are not living, or you're living, though you're living in Johnson County, you're living in the one city, Olathe, that has their own program. So they don't prioritize that. Some of the other priorities when they look at the housing choice vouchers that could help get you pushed up on the list above other people would be if you have a disability. It would also be, we already talked about residency, but if you have a disability, receiving like Social Security or Social Security disability, or if you are fleeing domestic violence, a victim of or fleeing domestic violence, that's also a priority label that they can put on that will move you up on the list. So I tell case managers all the time to be looking out because I would love to say that the list opens up each year, 2 years at the same time, but they don't. So you just need to constantly be on the lookout. Make it a point to get onto the City of Olathe's page, Johnson County, just looking for those updates. I do know that Johnson County is really good at putting it on MyRC too, as finding resource connections to seeing when you can be notified ahead of time on when those waiting lists will be opening up so that you can get your clients on it. Okay, so that is what I wanted to talk about in reference to that. Once they get, through the top of the list, there's a whole application process that's a lot more extensive to go into. But again, I wanted to talk about that program first as one of the programs. Okay, then I'm going to make another video on talking about the other three programs. I will say this, like Housing Choice Vouchers is the only housing program in Johnson County that you can access that has limitations, but really the limitations are you have to be under a certain poverty level. There are no limitations or eligibility requirements that state a person has to be experiencing homelessness to get approved for a housing choice voucher. So again, a person can be housed already, apply for it, and be approved as long as they're under a certain income level. Now, with the other three type of housing programs, which is an ESG program, an RRH, which is a rapid rehousing program, and then permanent supportive housing in Johnson County, all three of those housing programs, they require you to go through that coordinated entry that I will do another video on those three separate ones talking about how a person can access those lists, the assessment they need to complete, and how to access that assessment. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and close that up, and then I'm going to stop this video and then get right back on to go into the other details of the other three housing programs. So please go ahead and check out that video as well. I'm kind of breaking up videos right now just so they're not really, really long. So again, this is the one that was talking more about housing choice vouchers. It is a HUD program. And look out for my next video, which I'm about to record, that goes into the other three types of housing programs, which are also HUD programs, but they are really prioritized for those who are experiencing homelessness. Okay, thank you. Good night.